Hi, welcome to the Bonita Springs Area Chamber of Commerce podcast. I'm Tiffany Esposito, President and CEO, and I'm here today with Jesse Purdon, running for District 2 for Bonita Springs City Council.
It's awesome to be here. The hub looks great.
Thank
I'm really
you.
excited to sit down with you all.
Thank you, and thanks for taking the time to be here. So we're interviewing all of our candidates for City Council, and if you want to kick us off and just tell us about yourself and how long you've lived in Bonita and what your involvement in the community has been.
Okay. My name is Jesse Purdon. I've been in the community for about 10 years now. I actually ran for this seat against Chief DeWitt, and I lost by a handful of votes last time, but I've been heavily involved since that time. And then when he got the promotion to be the chief and resigned from council, I knew that it was going to be another good opportunity for me to take a crack at winning that seat. I'm currently the chairman of the Outreach Committee for the City of Bonita Springs, which is a relatively new committee, and it gives folks who traditionally don't feel they have a seat at the table with the city government a place to go and a hand to getting to the government. So we do that. We were able to help get the Marnie soccer fields reopened after Hurricane Irma. We started the Fiesta Bonita. We did our first sister city signing agreement in the history of the city. And we also did a Hispanic outreach for voting. So we've done a bunch of things from that committee really early on, and we also did a backpack giveaway. A number of other things with that committee. Additionally, I am the vice chair of the Charter Review Commission, which is an awesome honor because that's convened every 10 years. And in that committee, it's the people's chance to get things on the ballot that matter. Some of the things that I was able to help get on that ballot, last time around, it was term limits. I was very, I was instrumental in getting term limit language done before it was on the ballot last time. And then for this ballot that's coming up, it was really transparency stuff for the government. I wanted it to be so that the city could not do emergency meetings in the way that they could do it before. Essentially, like if you remember the medicinal marijuana one, for example, that's just one off the top of my head. They decided at 4 o'clock on a Friday that they were going to have a meeting to decide the result on Monday at 8 a.m. To me, that's not appropriate. I want 48 business hours for the people of the city to have an ample chance to respond. So I put things like that in the Charter Review Commission, and I was able to fight off some other things that were going to be really burdensome. There were members on the committee, and I won't name them by name, but I'll say that I believe they may be running for council in one of the other seats that were doing numerous things that were detrimental to the ideals of actually opening the doors in Bonita to business. One of these people was trying to get an oversight committee after zoning before it went to council, where it could be manipulated before it even went to council. They wanted mandatory for all deviations to the land development code, which in my opinion is antiquated. It's 2012. It needs to be holistically reevaluated. There were a number of things along those lines, like, if there was any deviation, it had to get to the full vote of the council. Well, what's the point of having zoning? So there's a lot of things like that have just, continually been a mindset in Bonita. I'm hopeful to break that, and I'm hopeful that District 2 is going to be a great spot to do that from.
Great. So you mentioned a few things, but can you elaborate more on why you're running for City Council?
I think that for the next 4 years is going to be the most pivotal. We have been a city for 20 years now, and we are now at the point where we are no longer thought of as Naples' little brother. We're older than Estero. We have the nicest library in the county. We have the nicest high school in the entire state of Florida. We have the best beaches that you can find anywhere, and we actually have affordable property rates. We have everything you could want in Bonita. And the next 4 years, I think, are really going to be a huge differential, because if you think about where we're at 4 years from now, think about where we're at. Look downtown. You had the wires going everywhere. Things looked completely different. We did the public side downtown. Now it's time to get the local government out of the way and let the private dollars come in and present themselves and see if we can actually live out, the downtown visioning study that we had back in 2014 at the old library that's since been torn down. I've been around since before then, with whether it was the high school, whether it was the flyover, whether it was the war with WCI, whether it was getting a high school or getting a dog park, or fighting for food trucks. Every single one of these issues, I've been on the record, I've been at the meetings. I'm excited to be on the other side where I'm actually going to get to vote. So that's why I'm running.
Fantastic. So you talked a little bit about downtown redevelopment. Talk to me about your thoughts on redevelopment in the downtown area and what types of development you'd like to see there.
Well, I would like mixed use down there, definitely, but I think it's important that we put it into perspective of what we wanted downtown to be. Back in, like I said, back in 2014, when the Chamber put on a great event where it was essentially the visioning study for what we wanted. And what we were talking about way back then was a bikeable, walkable, pedestrian-friendly downtown. And we've done all the components from a city side to make that true. But the thing that we have not done, we've gotten in our own way, is some of the most important properties have been on the books for 20 years. So not only is there zero ROI from the tax side of it, but there's zero ROI in regards to the local economy. So I think, one of the things I tried to do in the Charter Commission unsuccessfully was I tried to make it so that all city lands biannually went up for RFP, just so we can see what's out there. I'm not saying we have to take anything, but it's that type of mindset that we're going to have on that council, and it can't be this consistent default no to everything. To me, doing things on the sacred tradition, or because that's how we've always done them, or because you're afraid of them, or because they seem new, that to me is a mindset we've had with some, with people in the past, and it's not a mindset I'm going to have. So I'm looking forward to shaking things up in that regard if I win this seat.
Fantastic. So the food truck ordinance has been in the media a lot lately. Talk to me about your feelings on that.
Well, I was at the meeting, and I essentially made a free market argument. I said that, I don't feel the city should be saying, well, we can have one downtown and we can have three over there. Why are we saying that's what the market's going to regulate this. We don't need to. It's not going to, these false flags, like we're going to have 30 that are all going to pop up, is silly to me, because the market's not going to sustain that. And these people are small business owners who, mind you, contribute to the local economy, and they go through very, very stringent health regulations in order to be able to operate. And it gives people options. My argument to the council that I made was, if you look at Bayshore used to be the crime-ridden area where you wanted to go if you wanted to do drugs or foul play. It was down in Bayshore in Naples. Nobody wanted to be there. Now it has property rates rising higher than anywhere in Collier County. It's an art district. People are trying to get down there. The number one cook in all of South Florida, as voted by Miami Magazine, operates out of a food truck down there, so it is not this big, scary, type of thing that we can't adjust to. We have young families who come in here, and they might want options. And what's wrong with giving people options and letting the market decide if we're going to have 4 food trucks or 3 food trucks? We shouldn't be micromanaging that type of stuff from the city standpoint, in my opinion. And there'll be a lot less of that if I win this seat.
Okay. So the existing city councilors all serve as liaisons for different regional committees and organizations. What role do you think that you'll play on the existing council, and what organizations would you most like to be involved with?
Well, I mean, from initially, obviously, because I'm the chairman of the outreach committee, I'm going to have an affinity for that one, because I think that the goals that they have are huge, and it's new. So I want to ensure that, things like Fiesta Bonita, voter outreach, a great relationship with all the folks over at Marnie Fields, and I want to make sure that continues. And we did an award for Carmine Sheriff Marcino for school safety, because he has a school safety program that is keeping our kids safe. And I mean, there's so many cool ways that we're tying the community together with that committee. I want to make sure that stays strong. My vice chair's name's Tony Lee. He's a strong guy. If you don't know Tony Lee, you'll get to know him. But I imagine if I win the seat, I'm probably going to have to resign. He's my vice chair, so I think automatically it would become him. I didn't write the bylaws, but I believe that's how it is. Anyhow, I think that is going to be a huge one for me, but also I think the EDC would be beautiful. I would love to be part of the EDC. I know Fred Forbes has that now, and I love Uncle Fred. I'm not trying to steal anything from him, but I'll tell you that I see EDC for what it is holistically, and I think that the EDC is the exact type of energy we need in Bonita, because it's going to attract small businesses, medium-sized businesses. It's not going to be pushing people away, and it's that type of energy that we need if we're going to make downtown the downtown that we set it out to be.
Fantastic. So speaking of economic development in the EDC, what will you do to help regional economic development?
we're going to nail downtown. We're going to hit a home run. So downtown is going to be the centerpiece that is going to really set Bonita on a whole different track. You know, like I said, we have the best beaches in the state. We have the nicest high school. We have the nicest library. We have the affordable property rates. We have so many good things, but our downtown is really lacking. And we've been our own worst enemy because we've refused to allow these pieces of land to go up and see what we can even get. We don't even know what we can get because we refuse to let it happen. Because, again, the default answer is no on anything that seems, smells, or looks like development, even though this is designated as a redevelopment area. To me, it's mind-boggling that we could let these pieces go for this long without even seeing what we can get. I might bring back up my idea about doing it biannually if I win the seat, because these pieces do us no good. They're sitting here and they literally, there's zero ROI, like I said before, there's zero ROI on the tax base and there's zero ROI in regards to the local economy. So what are we doing there? What are we doing? We have the electrical lines are underground. You know, we've made it beautiful. We've built the cul-de-sacs. People are finally figuring out how to actually use them. You know, we've done the public dollars part. Now we got to get out of the way and let the private dollars in. So. I think that regionally that's going to have a huge impact because people are going to, like, even more people are going to be wanting to come to Bonita. We're growing fast. We're at about 60,000 people now. And we're going to keep growing. And I think as we grow, you know, that downtown actually coming to fruition, that's going to be a centerpiece for us. People might smile and say, yeah, right, that's never going to be it. You know, that's an old mindset. I don't buy that. You know, they might have given up on it 20 years ago, but it's a whole new time, whole new day. And I think there's life down there, and I think we're going to create it, and I think it's going to be beautiful. But it's not going to be the government creating it. It's going to be folks like you guys who are going to create it. Because if you get the government out of the way, you let the private dollars come in, it's going to be something beautiful down there. So that's my hope.
Great. Well, speaking of growth and improvement, talk to us about how you would improve transportation.
Transportation, I think, is going to be one of our, you know, it's been one of our biggest issues forever, 20 years. I don't think, you know, parking, I would say, more than transportation, it has always been an issue. And those are just things that we have to be cognizant of as we are doing things like taking these RFPs and finally allowing private businesses to come in. We can look at their plans and we can say, hey, you know, how many public parking spots are we going to get? You know, what is the... Looking at these two plans next to each other, this one gives me 50 spots, this one gives me 20. You know, it's going to give developers incentives to make deals with us as long as they're within the defined uses of what they're allowed to do. In my mind, we need to leave them alone. If you're within your zoning rights, and we can legally see that, then we need to allow you to do what you're zoned and allowed to do. Now, if we were in a situation where it's a piece of land that we're doing an RFP on, and then we get to pick the one that we like, obviously, we're going to pick the one that's the most advantageous for city, you know, for the city as a whole. But I think starting that process now and actually getting all of these out there and seeing what we can get back, and then following up on those plans and ensuring that they're public components, it's one of the only ways we're going to be able to improve it down there.
How do you feel about the Quadrant Plan?
I'm intrigued by the Quadrant Plan. I think I actually emailed. After I signed my paperwork for this race, they give you all the financials, and I was looking through everything, and I noticed the Quadrant Plan was funded by the city, and that immediately, you know, put up a red flag to me, and I emailed both the city attorney and the city manager, and I was like, you guys might not remember this because it was before your time. This was back when Carl and Audrey were there, and it wasn't Rooney and Arlene, and there was... Ben Nelson was the mayor, Steve McIntosh was the vice mayor. They were working with the MPO to try to get this study through the state that would create inevitably the potential of a flyover, which created World War III in Bonita. There was busloads of people out there. The pitchforks were out, and it didn't happen. I wasn't, for the record, I was not in support of a flyover there. But with that being said, it was good that, you know, it's always a good exercise of government when you can see what the people want and you give them what they want. I just brought up to Arlene and Rooney, I said, listen, just pay attention to this because this was a lightning rod for Bonita, unlike we've seen probably since then, other than the DRGR fight maybe. But I mean, this was one of the big ones. So keep an eye on it because the whole way it started was we're going to do a study. And then after the study, we're going to give you options. And then if you want the state funds, you have to do one of the options. And the thing that scared the council off was one of those options was a flyover at Bonita Beach Road. And we saw how those flyovers affected Fort Myers. And we saw what happened to all those businesses and most of those corners up there. Wasn't something we were comfortable with doing. So I just said, FYI, from an attorney and a manager standpoint, I'm sure you read up on this prior to getting here, but if you didn't, I would go back in history and Bonita a little bit and just take a look at how that whole thing unfolded, because you're going to get an emotional response from the city, and you're going to get a lot of parties who are going to be paying attention. So this is one, if it's not on your radar, it definitely should be, because depending on the results of that study are going to depend on how the city of Bonita will react. So brace yourselves depending on what the answer is.
Okay. What are 3 key issues you'll focus on if elected to the Bonita Springs City Council?
I want to focus on downtown, number 1. I think it's and I'm in District 2, which is right next to it, but I think it's important for the entire city. I want water quality. Obviously, I want to do things like the parking areas that we have that have filtration systems under them. Anything we can do along the lines of water quality is always great. And I want to hold the line on taxes. Not only do I want to hold the line on taxes, but I want to create a more responsive staff in regards to the business side of this. I get people who call me on a regular who can't get an answer back. They can't even get a regular number to somebody. They have to call and they have to leave a message. And then they sit there and they rub their belly, tap their head, and wish real hard and hope somebody calls them back. And the person that calls them back is actually the person they need to talk to, because if not, they jump back in the circle again. To me, if they're coming here and trying to give us dollars, we should make it a little bit easier. And it seems to me that a lot of times we have people who are chasing, we're sending these people to just chase their tails. They're putting hundreds and thousands of dollars that they don't have decorating the side of a building that goes up to an alley. Well, the city simultaneously tell them they need to pave a city-owned road, and then they may or may not have an acceptable use for the business that they have. And then they can't even get somebody to call them back. Then if they call it too many times, they get told that they quit taking their calls altogether. And now, to me, that's problematic, because you have so many other people on the other side of the equation, who have money invested from their family, from their business, things like that, and they're just sitting here on hold, hoping that Santa Claus answers the phone, because you shouldn't have to know the mayor, the vice mayor, or one of the council people to actually get an answer. You shouldn't have to know the city manager's Arlene Hunter to be able to get a response. And I'm not saying it's Arlene by any means. It's generally, they're Stantec employees, the ones that I'm generally referring to at this juncture. And it's only based on emails that I've gotten recently from people who are trying to do work downtown and they can't get answers. To me, if you call the government, local, federal, state, whatever, if you're calling somebody and you're trying to go through the appropriate process and you're trying to give them money, and we're in a situation where we've already spent a ton of money, why are we not making it easier? So I think that's one area that I'll really be able to make a difference. So I'm going to hold the line on taxes. I'm going to make it more business friendly. I'm going to fight for water, and we're going to get a beautiful downtown.
Fantastic. Yeah. Any closing comments?
I was against the water tax, and I might lose some people on that, but I want people to understand why I was. And I'm only going to explain this so that people can understand that not only have I been involved in all of these fights, for years, but the totality of my reasoning, so that, you don't get a clip from somebody insinuating that I was against water quality. I was against, on principle, how they did it. The reality is, from 2018 to 2019, we had $750,000 additional dollars that were coming into the city piggy bank from property taxes, because property values were increasing. Then additionally, the same week of that vote, we got $3 million from FEMA, which was allocated specifically for water projects. Additionally, that $50, quote, finger quote, only $50, is a big deal to some people, and it was a regressive tax. Half the people in these big communities who are voting and all antsy and their pantsy about this thing aren't going to pay what the lady that I was visiting over on Bonita Beach Road, who lives in a trailer and has a hole in her ceiling and is crying to me about the $50 tax increase. It is a big deal when you're doing things like that. And the argument to me that it's only $50, it's the accumulation of those little $50 over and over and over again when it's unrecognizable, the place that we're living. And I'm going to fight that every single time, because we don't need, if we're taking in over $3 million more dollars, and then additionally, that 1.5, that's initially being covered by the budget, in the general fund, right? So that's going to disappear into the ether. Now that's going to be gone And now we have set a permanent basis if it's going to be $50 every year. So now we have created a tax that will never go away, because if you take it away, now we're taking something away. We can raise it, but we'll never be able to lower it, and it's always going to be here. Why are we taxing anybody when we took in significantly more than we thought we were going to? I understand the term for the importance of long-term planning. That's why we have impact fees. That's why we have all of these other associated taxes. And to me, it's a situation where they're constantly trying to raise them, whether it was the utility fee or whether it was looking at ad valorem, all of these other things. It's a constant. Let's get more money. Let's get more money. That's not how it's supposed to be. I want to run government light, and I want to be a free market, business friendly, family friendly type community that we've all been thinking about and waiting for, and we're almost there. So if I win this seat, you can count on me. I'll always take your calls. I'll always meet with you. And I look forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate it, and good luck in the election.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Chamber Chat. Don't forget to tune in next Tuesday for a brand new episode. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. Don't forget to subscribe.